All right, let's get moving along with this work session since the mayor's not here. We have two items on the agenda. One is a letter from Nome Public Schools to the Nome Common Council. And second item is a memo from the city manager regarding FY26 budget options to address Nome Public Schools' financial needs.
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, would you like to?
Yes, sir. I
explain
was
what's going on?
well, obviously we heard it on the news, and then Jamie, the school superintendent, confirmed the bad news from state legislature and the governor's office. And I felt it important, based on that, the changes we'd already made, that we, let the schools come up, talk to you about what the changes are, what's happened, what we're thinking. I did put together, and I've shared that with the school board and with Jamie about the options. And so we've talked about that a little bit. So if it's all right, I would ask the school superintendent to come up and talk with us about the changes and where she sees things at this point in time.
Right, well, good evening. As you can see, one of our concerns that I addressed last time I was before you, unfortunately, has come to pass, in that Governor Dunleavy did make the decision to partially cut the budget for education in the state of Alaska. This is historic and a little unprecedented. This is the first time any governor has ever cut the budget below the statutory amount for education. The $700 BSA increase that was passed, vetoed, and then overturned by the legislature was reduced by him to effectively an amount of $500 instead of the $700 increase. Our budget was originally built on a $680 BSA increase, which was equivalent to the one-time funding that we received in FY25. So this is a cut across the state to every single district from what they received the year before. So the effect for Nome is a reduction in our foundation funding of $315,000 approximately. So combined with the cut from the city council, as announced previously, that is $1 million reduction overall to the school district's budget. And so, as I stated in there, May 15th is technically our deadline to do a reduction in force. So I state law. So that time has long passed. We've signed contracts. We have signed contracts for new teachers coming in to replace those that have that are not returning. And so we have not, we've kind of put on hold the hire. We have a couple of positions that we would still like to fill, but we're putting that on hold. So we have not had much success in finding an assistant principal for the elementary school at this point in time. And we are in need of filling the admissions secretary, the attendance secretary position at both the elementary school and the high school. Both of those individuals did resign for the upcoming year. So without being able to fill those, especially at the elementary school, that's going to be particularly challenging. We are having a brand new principal coming in. She does not have a lot of administrative experience. And the elementary school, we've whittled down the level of support that's been available to them over time due to budget cuts, grants, etc. So no counselor, no behavior specialist, no social worker. It's been the principal, the assistant principal, and their front office team that have been handling everything that has to get taken care of basically at the elementary school. As such, my hope is I've come back to you, because that was the conversation, to say, hey, if the governor made a cut, then the city council would look at restoring some of those funding. I reviewed the recommendations that Lee has put together, and I'll be very honest with you, my business manager is not supportive of trying to continue to pull out money out of the apartment fund. You may not be aware of, but several years ago, we received a $500,000 grant from the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation towards the new, towards the building of the new apartment structure that we were hoping to complete. We've received out of that $50,000, or 10% has been held in reserve for that until the project is complete. However, so we have gone back to them several times now and asked them to extend the deadline. Our concern is, since now we're going to push it back even further with pulling money out of the apartment fund, that we may lose entirely that last $50,000. We've expended the entire amount that was all used to do all of the original design work, all the engineering work, so that we have basically a shovel-ready project. But that will be $50,000 that that we will have lost because the project. There's no guarantee, but I do have to contact them and kind of get an idea about what's their appetite for continuing to push the deadline farther and farther out on this project. So also remember that that money that sits in the apartment fund is, as well as being saved for the future, is also money that if something happened to that building, the roof needs repairing or things like that, that's part of what that fund exists for. So we're really loath to continue to pull down. I mean, the district has had to exist on diminishing returns, I guess you could say. We've been flat funded for over a decade. We've had seen nothing but increases in our expenditures, and we continue to cut and cut and cut and cut. And we're at the point now where, we can't cut without having some significant impacts on basically schooling for our kids. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm open to any questions that you may have for us at this point.
I have a question for you. Let's make the assumption that you get the $315,000 in January. Do you have the cash flow to cash flow it till January?
Yeah, I think we'll have the cash flow to survive till January. And that's the earliest. I mean, it's very clear that the legislature is not going to hold a special session to come back in to consider that budget override. We've had any number of legislators that have said that that would be the first item of business when they come back into session in January. However, the bar is now higher. It takes a 2/3 majority to override, obviously, a piece of legislation, and it takes 3/4 to override a budget line item veto. So, which means that there's still a lot of legislative advocacy that's going to have to be done by school boards, superintendents, and other legislative supporters between now and January. We will have the cash flow to get us until there. We may have to, but it's still going to impact us. We had put some of the funds that we had into some CDs to try to garner some interest while the interest rates were high. Another way of we have very limited ways of bringing revenue into the district, so we're trying to get creative. And if we have to cash those out, we will cash those out if needed, but that means the loss of the anticipated interest revenue as well. So that's, again, another cut on top of everything else. And there's no guarantee that the veto will pass. We have any number of conservative legislators. Some of them are pretty hard line and just said, nope, we're going to follow whatever the governor wants. Others, we know that we're going to have to work on them to get them to continue, because we had 46 legislators that voted to override the veto of House Bill 57, and we will need all 46 of those votes when we get back. So there's going to be some work to do. And if it doesn't happen, then we're out the money. And then we have to then it's back to seeing what we can do back in the legislative session again. So again, there's no guarantee. It was very disappointing, of course. Dunleavy's reasoning behind the veto was that we couldn't afford it because gas prices are down. Well, now with all the unrest in the Middle East, gas prices are creeping up again. So we don't know if that's one way that we can use, depending on where we are in January, to help some of those legislators to come back and to consider the veto. But we do know, we're hearing the news all across the state, depending on exactly where every district stood. Some districts are talking about school closures. Other districts are like, well, we budgeted for absolutely nothing, so that's where we are. In many cases, those are extremely small districts, from what I'm hearing. So weirdly enough, Nome is always considered a mid-sized district, and that's always hard for people to understand. We got less than 700 kids and we're a mid-sized district, but that's Alaska. So that's where we are.
Does anybody else have any questions for the superintendent over here?
Are you good? We did attach, some options. Nikki and I talked and just put some things, for consideration. Like I said, I did share that with the schools, so just to give you something to think about or whatever, the council decides. Any other questions? Okay. Since we've got some time in the work session, Nikki, can you hear me? You there?
I'm here.
Okay. Could you go over, since, I was gonna do it in my report, but it really is just to let the council know about, what we're seeing in cash flow. I promised I would keep, the council updated on that. I was just, when Nikki called me last week, I told her, I said, let's put a memo together just to keep you updated, as we kind of watch things. Also, I know we've got the tax bills getting ready to go out, so revenue will start coming in down August-ish. July, I know that, but I'm saying the bulk of it typically comes in.
July.
All in July?
You said the bulk of it. The majority comes in
In July? Well, you
Yeah.
got good taxpayers. They always made me wait till the last minute in Georgia, so. But, do you want to go over that? Just, like I said, it's just Mr. Chairman, just a, point of information. I thought, it might be good for you to hear. So can you go over that, Nikki, for me?
Yep. So our general fund cash has been dropping this last quarter. At the end of April, it was running about 1.7 million, and then down to 790,000 at the end of May. And last week, when I reached out to Lee, it was about 663,000. It hasn't been this low in years, but we knew that it was probably going to happen this year with how we've been taking from savings the last couple of budget cycles. I expect it to stay low until that July property tax comes in towards the end of the month. And then additionally, the port owes the general fund a little over $500,000, and they're already billing. So I'll be watching the port operating cash account and moving funds over as I can.
Okay. Jory, is there anything you needed to mention about that?
Well, I think the council knows that this is a common occurrence, as the city general fund upfronts all of our bills, payroll. We just pushed out about 350,000 in the last 3 weeks for initial seasonal activities, so the repayment will be forthcoming soon. As Nikki monitors that real close.
Yeah.
And it's a constant thing, is general fund. The port used to have its own bills and own checking way back, because he wrote checks for payments, but that changed 15 years ago, maybe 12. And it's just a revolving thing, so at any given moment, she can come up with an amount that we owe, and within 3 to 4 weeks, it'll change.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
yeah, it'll be reimbursed.
Yeah, I was talking about, Jory, Friday, and she just appeared, and I was like, oh, you got a check? She said I'd get one later. I appreciate it. Nikki, any questions for Nikki, or while we're here, anything on the budget? We've not had any substantive changes, Nikki, on anything with the budget since we were here last. Was there anything that you needed to mention? I don't believe so, but if
I
there is,
do,
go ahead.
I do have the memo in the packet tonight that lets you know we need to make a budget correction in Fund 14. I forgot to put a memo together to ask for a motion at the June 9th meeting.
Yep.
And just wondering timing wise, if you'd like to see that correction in July or wait to the mid-year budget amendment. I'm kind of getting a sense from Lee that he would like to get us fixed.
Yeah. I don't like to prolong those things. If we can fix them, fix them. So, all right. Anything else from council or?
Anybody else out in the audience that'd like to talk about the school or?
Yeah, I'm Margaret Thomas. I came to, because it wasn't clear from the agenda whether this was going to be the time for the public hearing on the distribution of the NSCDC 2024 appropriation.
It's actually on
the
It's on the agenda under new business, but I didn't know from the wording it wasn't, and I did talk to Dan about this earlier today, but I couldn't tell from the wording whether it was to talk about how public notice will be given or whether this is the opportunity for people to come forward and testify formally about it. So that, anyway. But I can do that. I can hang out until 7. That's fine.
That, I mean,
Okay.
it's not a hearing.
not
though.
on the
You can
record,
make-
No,
no,
but
no.
if you'd like it on the record.
Well, I
twice.
want it on the
You should
record.
wait.
She wants
You
to
should
do it on
wait.
the record, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should wait.
Yeah, unless she wants to do it twice.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, practice it, I guess, now if you want.
I already did.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna incorporate my earlier statements.
Okay.
Well,
Got a few minutes.
Yeah.
not anything else on the agenda though, so.
Nope.
Everybody's tired from the weekend. It went really, really well. I think everybody did an awesome job. It's very organized. Yeah. So proud of everybody. The water was cold. Next year, we'll get the whole council to do it. How about that? Make it a fundraiser. I've said for one of the organizations, you know, if people will do it, dare you to do it and say, if you do it, we'll, you know, pay so much money. Dan did a fundraiser and they shaved his head. You say, look, for the animal shelter, you need, you know, some money. I did it for $20,000 one time. We raised 20,000 in 24 hours. And I guess it's because we had a tax increase, so they wanted my head shaved. It worked, and we got 20,000 for the
We can
shelter.
do it the work session anytime,
Mhm.
if we're done with the work session.
Yeah.
That did and take a brief
Yeah.
respite.
We don't have much more on the agenda, so we can end the work session.
All right, sounds
Yep.
good.
Take a break.
Thank you.
I heard from he has pneumonia.
Oh my God.
He Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Martinson.
Here.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Piscoya. Here.
Thank you, all present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, we have a slight agenda on for the evening. I get approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
There you go.
Roll call, please.
All right, motion made by Councilmember Miller, seconded by Councilmember Green. Roll call, Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Piscoya.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
That motion passed.
Thank you. We have the agenda and oath of office. Would you enlighten us
It's a
on that?
placeholder. It's
Placeholders.
just a placeholder. We don't have anything to present today.
Okay, thank you. Next item is approval of minutes.
We don't have any minutes to present in this meeting today.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see any communications in the
Nope.
thing, so we don't have that. Citizens' comments. Are there any citizens that'd like to address the council tonight? Please come up, state your name, and state your piece.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Bishop, Executive Director of Nome Community Center. Just coming to represent our multiple programs. So in the past, the city has had funding for our emergency shelter as well as our youth programming, which includes Children's Home, Boys and Girls Club, and Camp Crave that we offer each summer. And so it is really important for that continuous support, and I know you guys have talked about putting it in your NSCDC funding, and so we just wanted to be here to answer questions and just remind you that we really would appreciate the funding and would appreciate you considering us for that allocation.
Thank you.
Anything else to add?
I'll just get up and, my name is Margaret Thomas, and I just want to recognize, I don't know whether, the other board members who are here also would like to speak themselves. There's Jessica Lemaire, Hannah Schneid, but all of us feel very strongly about how important it is, and we wanted to get this on the record, that NEST is an extremely important program during the winter months, of course, to prevent deaths due to exposure, and that the youth programming at the other, on the other hand, is also important to give children something productive and educational to do, including Camp Crave, the Boys and Girls Club, and the children's home. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, and if you have any questions, we can entertain them. My understanding, this is the public hearing on the appropriation of the NSCDC 2024 funds. Is that?
So right now, we're having citizen comments, for you to make any comments you like, and then we do have the agenda
Okay,
item of public hearing.
thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to take off my superintendent hat and I'm going to put on my hat. Those of you may not know that one of the other things I do is I'm the president of the Bering Sea Women's Group. And I would just like, as the city council is considering how they will use the NSCDC community share funds, to please keep the women's shelter in your mind. We serve not only Nome, but the entire region for women that, or men in cases which are victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. And so outside funding is the donations that we receive are very important for us to continue to provide the services that we need for the clients that come to the shelter. So that's what I say. Thank you.
I only have one copy for everybody, but I'm sure copies can be made.
My name is Molly Noctemore, and I'm also here to talk about the NSEDC funding for the Nome Preschool. And I have a lovely letter written by Becca Luce, who is currently running us. So first of all, thank you for being here on such a beautiful, beautiful evening. It's hard for me. I'm sure it's hard for all of you to be here. And thank you for your leadership and dedication to the City of Nome. We're currently writing on behalf of Becca Luce and the Nome Preschool Association to formally request an allocation of $65,000 from the NSEDC Community Benefits Share to help support our early childhood education program. The city has funded this in the past, and currently the current money in the budget is $0, and you'll find more of what she would like to say in the letter itself, which I'm sure you will all receive copies of later. However, it does fund a whole position, and considering there is only really 3 positions at the preschool, reducing it to only 2 would not really make the preschool effective for 3 to 5 year olds in terms of early childhood learning and preparation for for kindergarten. You can really tell the difference between some children who have some preparation and preparedness versus other children who are going into the education system for the first time. So we would really appreciate your thoughts on potentially allocating that to the Nome Preschool. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the council tonight? Seeing none, there is another opportunity later on in the agenda. So that brings us to unfinished business. Mr. Clerk, would you read that by number and title?
Ordinance 25-06-09, an ordinance amending the Nome Code of Ordinances, section 1710.010, sales tax, to provide for a 6% sales tax levy, subject to approval by the qualified voters of the City of Nome.
Thank you. We did do the motion before the hearing or after the hearing?
Motion.
Before the hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion on this ordinance.
Make that motion.
Second. Council Member Martin, Council Member Green. And we'll, at 7:11, we'll go into public hearing on this motion. If anybody would like to speak up on this particular ordinance, this is the second reading and final reading for this ordinance. So if anybody would like to come and speak up on this, now's the time to do so. Seeing no public hearing, we'll come back into session at 7:12. And we'll open the floor for discussion amongst council members if there's any discussion on this motion. Seeing none, please call the roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Piscoya.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes. Motion passes. Under new business, we have the memo from Finance Director regarding the FY26 budget correction needed in Fund 14 capital projects. Do you have Nikki on the line, or would you like to have Nikki?
She is. Nikki, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, do you wanna just go over that briefly, see if there's any questions?
We need to reduce Fund 14 by 50,000. In the June 9th meeting, we reduced the transfer out of the general fund by 50,000 to reduce the savings towards equipment from 150,000 to 100,000. So we'll reduce both revenue and expense by 50,000. And I will queue that up into your next packets. It's gonna have to go through 2 readings again.
questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Nikki?
Nope.
Seeing none, so that will come up in a future meeting?
Yes.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing for public comment on use of the 2024 NSCDC Community Benefit Share Funds. Do we recess for this public
Yes, sir.
hearing? We will recess at 7:14. Is there anybody who would like to speak on the record regarding the 2024 NSCDC funds? And just to clarify, what's in our current allotment is a previous year. Is that correct?
Right?
Yes, and this, yes.
Yeah, so this is basically a public hearing for this next slot of money
July
available.
1st.
Nikki, can you clarify that regarding what NSCDC funds we have available?
We have $150,000 available for the 2024 CVS distribution.
Okay, and that's the total amount of the funds that we have available at this time from NSCDC?
Yes,
And then they have not announced their 2025?
correct. We will probably hear about that by the end of November.
Okay, very good. All right, so under public hearing, if there's anybody like to make any further comments regarding the available funds that we have from 2024.
Good evening, it's Margaret. My name's Jessica LeBaire. I'm a board member with the Nome Community Center. And I want to speak again on behalf of our programming, especially the Nest. We are actually looking to increase Nest hours, not decrease them. And that obviously takes funding, not a lack of funding. We know that it gets cold here very early, and that even our springs and our summers can be really nasty. And so we would like add like Mirbach or open it up for like emergency situations like that. You can get hypothermia at like 56 degrees, I think, when it's raining. So we are requesting some of that funding for the grant. Like I said last time, I don't envy you at all having to make these decisions because these are all really important programs. And so, but the Nest does save lives. And it's a really important part of our community. And there isn't another place oftentimes for, or at all for these members of our community to go other than the hospital. And they can't stay there, more than a few hours. And our other programming is really important too. The children programming and our elders programs. But really the Nest keeps people alive. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to address during this public hearing?
I'm sorry I misunderstood the process. I didn't realize there would be a public hearing at this point. And I would just like to add to my previous statement to say that specifically we are requesting the amounts that were discussed at previous meetings, which would be $35,000 for Nest, which is what was appropriated last year in the regular from the general fund, and an additional $20,000 for the youth programming. So that would be the Nome Community Center's request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Smith-Heisler here advocating for the preschool and any local nonprofits that we to support. It does, I did speak in comments in previous budget discussions looking at the non-department section of the budget. So it was disheartening to see that completely zero out, and the risk of right now the city is not supporting any local organizations except for external organization of the Iron Dog and Iditarod. Maybe it would have been better to utilize our actual budget funding to provide our actual local organizations rather than the outside. So thank you for considering using this funding for these organizations, and we appreciate still being considered supported.
Does anybody else would like to address the council during the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll come back into session at 7:18. We have nothing further on that particular agenda item, is that correct, Mr. City Clerk?
That's correct.
Okay. That leads us to the second citizens' comments. If there was anything that you've said in the past, and you'd like to bring it up now, now's the time. Seeing none, we go to you.
My son will most likely be diagnosed with autism very soon, and the preschool is a vital, important part of his structured day where he gets kind of overseen play and he learns how to play nicely and correctly with other children and socializations because he is a COVID baby and he was kept away from a lot of individuals for most of his very early life. And so he already has kind of a step down from other kids perhaps because he doesn't have a large family and so he didn't get to interact with a lot of kids early on, and then on top of that being like he's going to be diagnosed with autism, I already know that, he already has another disadvantage in terms of engaging with his peers. So having that 2 to 3 hours during the weekday where he does have that play and that structured time really helps not just him successful in school, but it helps him be successful outside of the classroom too, with other people in general. Like he won't hit or bite because he finally understands why, and he has someone to help guide him. So as a parent, I would be crushed if he wouldn't get that opportunity this coming year before he goes into kindergarten. And like he had a great year this past year. Granted, there was a comment every single day about his behavior, but he made it through. And this next year, I can only see him growing from being at the preschool. But without that, he's definitely going to probably take a turn down before kindergarten gets him. So as a parent of a child with special needs, like the preschool is fundamental to his development, instead of being stuck at home with me all day. Because as his parent, he's only going to get so much social interaction, and I am not up here. So again, this is kind of a plea to help fund the preschool so we don't lose that third position. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a utilities manager's report tonight? City manager report.
Real quick, as you're looking at me, get out of here. I just really just want to, and I sent something out today to our folks and our team. Our team made me very proud this last 4 or 5 days. Many volunteered. We pulled them off some other jobs that they needed to be doing, but they wanted to participate, from moving the bus stops to cleaning, you name it, moving barriers, whatever it was. But I just want to thank our team, the city, and all the organizations for what they did. I had a good time. The water was very, very cold, but that was all right. I survived with a bunch of other people. So we'll get council. I think they've all agreed they'll do it next year. Pushing me in. But I do want to mention the emergency notification system and the community notification system that we're putting in place. I signed the contracts today, so we will have that in shape and implemented no later than the second week of August, which will allow us to do with cell phones alerts. People sign up. We're mining the data right now from cell companies, but we will be putting out in July for people to sign up, not only for emergencies, but also for community updates. We can send things out, text, and voice on there, so you can have a message to listen to, and it's for community events, calendar events to remind people you need to attend, or there's a public hearing, a workshop, whatever it is. But I'm mostly excited about the emergency notification. I know a lot of people depend on social media, but we have found most of, for instance, in the first missing person, that over 80% of the information that came across Facebook was absolutely not correct. And you have to be careful of that. So we want to get out good information, the right information for help. So we're excited about it. I appreciate the council, and folks supporting to get that done. We scrape around and Nikki's online and we're like, okay, I need 2 here, I need 3 here. And we were able to get this for the first year for $5,000. There's a sliding scale with a lot of these companies. So we're able to do that and expedite. So I'll keep you updated as to what we're doing, but we're going to do a marketing program to get people to sign up. The other thing is, as over the next year, we will be able to, like with your cell phone, go out and take a picture of a pothole or a sign down or, a dog ran through my yard, whatever. But you can submit it on what we're going to call My Nome on your application. And we'll get that, and it will keep you informed as council, keep my office and the departments informed. And if it is a 911 type situation, we'll be doing marketing. This is not 911. This is for, so we've got that to do. But I'm really excited about that and these companies stepping up to help us quick. Because when I have talked to the state about the silver alerts, amber alerts, they've said it could be a year or 2 years. And I went, I can't wait. So we moved on. I did ask for money. He said, well, since you can't help me, can you give me any money? So I did send that. But I'm really excited about that. And I know for fire, police, our SART team, it's going to be awesome. But we also can join forces with tourism on announcing things like yesterday. But with the call-in, I think that's going to help really streamline where complaints go. Again, really excited about that. 3D House is they're digging that foundation out. They're going to be back here tomorrow. So once that gets going, I'll give you some information to go out once they start the 3D building. If you've not seen that before, that's amazing. So looking forward to media going out, and I'm still trying to get somebody to put a camera up, and I think the company might, to watch it in chronological, building from the ground up. So we're excited about that. We have been approached by, again, several corporations for building additional work housing, which is phenomenal. And I think that is definitely going to help with these 2 other projects you'll find out about very shortly, to help kind of curb the demand on housing for workers, which then can get people out of other, which would free up some other space. So I'm, excited to see those things. So a lot in the hopper.
Thank you. Any council member questions or comments for the city manager? All right. Council member comments. Mr. City Clerk?
All right. Councilmember Green.
It was really nice seeing people out, the rat race and everything else that happened this last week, so thank you to everybody that participated.
We were supposed to have one, but nobody would volunteer with me. So we're going to volunteer for a raft next year.
That's it for me.
Councilmember Miller.
No comments.
Councilmember Harrison. Councilmember Piscoya.
In terms of the community benefit shares for NCDC, did we pass the resolution?
No.
No. On the table.
Yeah, they want to do this, and then so the next,
Okay.
same paper will come in the next meeting. So
Perfect.
all those same things
That's
will be
it.
on the next one.
We listed how. it was.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got that.
In the last packet, yes. Okay, that's all I had.
Councilmember Morrison.
Nothing.
Mr. Chair.
I heard somebody was looking for the status of outdoor basketball hoops.
Public Works, and we're trying to get that together. Obviously, this week threw us off, so we should be able to get that pretty quick. But this last week threw us off a little bit.
All right,
So
still in the works.
make sure we did it.
That's all I had. Absent of the mayor, I'm not gonna add any more comments. 7:28, this meeting is adjourned.
Swear, Mayor.
Thank you.
Manny,
That was quick.